painting the picture, I was probably a 26, 27-year-old naive builder who just, started a newly fledged construction company.
What was it that shifted? You started consuming great content, you started listening to really good mentors in the industry, you started all that.
For a client, selecting a young builder that's like 26, 27, going to build them a 7-figure home versus the 50-year-old builder that's got 20 houses under their belt.
For you, when you look at the future, short-term, long-term?
Say over the past 12 months, I really took the time to...
This is Daniel Perrem from Perrem Design and Construction, a full-service design and construction team specialising in high-quality new homes across the New South Wales, Shoalhaven and Arabadella regions.
I didn't want to be that person walking into the accountant going,
Where am I at?
Yeah, where am I at?
Our whole team has seen that shift.
The person and the builder that I am now compared to when I first started is chalk and cheese.
Today on the Builders and Marketing podcast, JP and Daniel sits down to discuss the stigma of being a young 26, 27-year-old builder and how he overcame it, taking his business from being a carpenter to a proper building business, the tools, resources, and the approach he took that made this happen, to Daniel setting up his building business to have an in-house design team, and the question that came with it, will this reduce referrals from future architects and building designers? In this podcast, we go more in depth with that and how Daniel approached this whole situation. And now, for the podcast with Daniel.
Well, first of all, big thank you for jumping in and jumping on this podcast, Daniel, and making the trip up here from down south. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the invite.
To kick things off for the listeners, because there's going to be a bunch of our builders listening to this, and no doubt some of your audience as well. Talk us through how you got into building and where that came from.
So when I finished school, I kind of had two paths before me. I submitted an application to do architecture at uni, and at the same time I was offered an apprenticeship from a local builder, and I decided to defer the uni for a year and take on this carpentry apprenticeship, and thought I'll just try it out and see how it goes, and if it doesn't work out I can pick up the uni in a year, and 15 years later here I am, still a carpenter.
Nice, man. That's a pretty unique a combination there of passions, both. And that's something you've carried with you. That design side of things is still a passion of what you guys are doing today.
So I always had a massive passion in, building things with my hands, and that extended to kind of like furniture and then houses, and it just evolved from there. And I guess I just wasn't sure at the time, if my passion laid building it or designing it, but luckily enough I managed to kind of combine the two in a design and construction type format, which is what we do now.
Sick.
And it's just been a great blend of both of those passions of mine.
Well, I'm definitely keen to jump more in that in a sec, and how you've really grown that and grown it well. Both sides, because when those two sides talk well together, outcome is amazing. Okay, so you went down carpentry and building. At what stage did you dabble back into design?
I never left it, so I always was like tinkering away on things in the background, and probably I'd just be drawing houses for fun, to be honest. Not for anyone in particular, just for something to do to pique my interest. And then I guess the first house that really I got invested in was designing my own house, and then it kind of snowballed from there. I picked up a client and so on and so on, and obviously...
So the photos you showed me earlier of your house,
did
you design that from flat earth, or was it, did you design a reno of it, or? No,
so that was like a complete bush block when we bought it, and quite steep, so the design was to tear it down the hill to suit the slope. I didn't want to be like a long way out at the back and not have any access to the backyard. But it's also solar passive, so it's got big eaves that allow the sun in winter to warm the slab and block it out in summer, so it doesn't heat up the home.
Today you guys have rebranded a bit with the name Perrem Design Construction. Really there to reflect that growth and value you guys can really bring in terms of the design side of things. Before that became a really big part, and you were mostly focusing on the building construction side. What was that like in those days working with designers and that, where you didn't have as much involvement?
I'd say we've always done a combination of working with designers and working with our own designs as well, bringing it in-house. So we never went down the path of just only working with designers. I was lucky enough the first house I ever built for a client actually was my own in-house design, and we did the construction as well. And it's always been a mix of maybe 50-50 throughout the entire process, but it's definitely, we're able to streamline it a lot more when a client comes to us and does in-house design construction. We can obviously offer up-to-date estimating throughout the process through concept and stuff like that, so there's not a hurdle at the end where they fall over and the budget doesn't meet the design and things like that.
So in the early days, what sort of projects were you generally looking at and working on?
Generally my passion's always been in new construction. I just love starting with a blank slate rather than being tied to an existing building, and that in the area that I'm in, there's nothing that's heritage listed or anything like that, so generally the client can get a lot more value by doing a knockdown rebuild, or there's a lot of vacant land too, so just building on a new block. So that's generally been my passion because you're not hindered by, an existing structure that may hold you back.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
I can imagine that would be, with that, I suppose it comes down to the client's ideas and what's the word I'm looking for? Brief.
Yeah.
But yeah, designing from a clean slate, can that not be a bit of Pandora's box sometimes?
It is. I mean, yeah, it's a lot easier, but then it's kind of the question, how long is a piece of string? I guess you could just trail off into nowhere and make the thing massive. But yeah, it definitely needs to be have a limit to it. Yeah, and some good direction.
Yeah, just want to dive more into that because that's a big thing that we're hearing a lot from guys in the industry. How to work well with designers, those that are wanting to shift to doing design construct, whether it's in-house design or partnering with designers, but just being able to better manage that process.
Yep.
For a number of reasons, but we'll come back to that. So early days, when we started talking, or when you first came across us, Biz Video, how long have you guys been operating for then?
We must have only been operating for maybe 18 months to 2 years by then, I would think. Yeah.
And then where did you originally come across us?
It would have just been on social media, I'm sure, at that point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have started following you and followed along with the stories that you were putting out for other builders and just thought they were amazing and thought I need some of that. So,
okay, on that, what was it that resonated with you and why did you think that you wanted it or needed it? Or?
Yeah, so at the time, because painting the picture, I was probably a 26, 27-year-old naive builder who just, started a newly fledged construction company. Yeah. And I would say that initial video, that story video that you guys did to me was a pivotal point in my journey as a business owner because it really solidified for me the work that we'd done and showed me the standard that we'd done it to. And not only that, at that time, being so young, I would say that, my extended family and friends saw me probably as a builder or a carpenter that is probably knocking up a few decks or something like that. And that just wasn't the case. So to be able to deliver that story to, friends, family and clients, it really validated what we could do and what we were able to deliver and probably broke that stigma that I had at that younger age of clients maybe not
yourself or the outside.
At the time, I wasn't aware that I had it, but I think I probably did have that stigma, like I'm too young to be doing this. Yeah. But then obviously there's a massive stigma for a client selecting a young builder that's like 26, 27, going to build them a 7-figure home versus the 50-year-old builder that's got 20 houses under their belt and a lifetime of...
I still remember that chat we had first when we first met and we spoke on Zoom and just understanding that was a big frustration.
Yep.
I remember you mentioning that just you were confident in your capabilities and you knew you could do it, but we're tired of constantly getting looked over or not even getting the opportunities and the big guys just because of their age or just because they've done it before.
Yep.
We're just giving it.
Yeah.
And it's, I know even, and it was interesting because chatting with you, you mentioned all that to me and I had a picture in my head of based on what you were sharing with me on that call of the kind of stuff you did. And then I remember when the team showed me the story before they showed it to you, I was like I was even like, whoa, and so it opened my mind up to you and probably a lot of the builders we help is so often you don't even realize how you're communicating yourself maybe because of certain stigmas you have or self-limiting beliefs and so that was cool. Going back to that process, the story development, it's a long way back. How was that process for you? Going through that and getting clear on
it was really great. It really laid everything out before me in terms of who we were as a company, where we wanted to go, where we were at and how we were going to get there. And I think it was just amazing to deliver that message to clients as well, especially because of the age I was. Yeah. Again, they were able to take me a lot more seriously because we had a story and a mission and, they could tell where we wanted to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's cool to hear you say that because that's often, that is that stigma, of the old generation with the younger. I mean, we've had it every now and again as well, where it's like, but when you can start communicating, when you have clarity and you have a vision and you have this mission, and you can deliver it confidently. Sometimes that's all they're looking for is, that level of confidence. And the fact that you went and invested in something like this, said, okay, this guy's here to stay. He's serious.
Yep.
Once you started implementing it, because at that stage, I think we just gave you the organic distribution program. Do you remember utilizing that, or did you just do kind of what did you do with that? Okay, start there. Maybe what did you do with that story at that stage? How did you start using it initially?
Yeah, it definitely became a core part of our marketing strategy. In terms of if we had a client contacting us, we would be putting that in front of them almost straight away via email or however that may be. But it was definitely a great trust builder for those clients that were looking to invest in us as a company.
And then A little while later, I think maybe 6 months or a year later, we started taking care of the ad side of things and getting that out there. I mean, often when I explain that to someone who's never looked at that or understands that concept, the way I often explain it is it's really there to get more attention. Well, there's a few things to do it, but one is to get more people even aware that you even exist.
Yep.
Then you have to be regularly showing up in their world.
Yes.
And then you have the whole retargeting, which allows you to keep showing up in their world because they're not ready to make a decision today, maybe in 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years. Once that got turned on, and it's never an overnight success, what did you start to see? Yeah,
I think to start off with, marketing is definitely not something that you do overnight. It's a long-term game. The fruit that you might be sowing now, you may not reap for 12, 18 months down the road. Yeah. So it's definitely a long-term play, and it's well worth it. As time goes on, you'll start to see, I started to see more and more traction and more clients inquiring, and not only clients, but proper clients that were, really engaged and had great values and wanted to build amazing projects, which aligned with exactly what we wanted to do.
Over the last 3 years, from first starting with a story and getting that out there by yourself, and then starting running ads, and then we got BV Amplify that came after that. But what was the momentum, or what changed over the last 3 years, and how did it change?
Yep. I think it was, I spent a lot of time on growing and improving the business in not just marketing, but every facet across the board, because looking back now, when I was that 26, 27-year-old naive builder, I was a great technician, as in I was a great carpenter, I was quick, I was efficient, but I had absolutely no idea about business in terms of how to run a business. What marketing strategies do you need to employ? What does the profit and loss and balance sheet look like? I had no idea. So the amount of learnings that I've had over that period of time it'd be more than 10x. It'd be like 100x. Like the person and the builder that I am now compared to when I first started is chalk and cheese.
That's definitely something. That was also a topic I wanted to dive into, but let's jump straight into it, because that's our whole team have seen that shift. Like the Daniel Perrem that we worked with 3 years ago versus the Daniel Perrem a year ago versus Daniel Perrem today. Just continual growth. What was the light bulb moment, or the moment that things shifted, or was it? I mean, again, not overnight. Personal development is not overnight. In one book and you become an expert. But what was it that shifted? And because you started consuming great content, you started listening to really good mentors in the industry, you started all that. Where did that start?
I don't know that there was like a key turning point, but I'd say we've always been quite progressive as a company from the get-go anyway, as in implementing 3D rendering softwares, layout systems on site. Like we've used a lot of GPS layout systems on site 4 or 5 years ago now. So I think it's just been something that's been built up over time, like a snowball effect. It gets, more and more and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you start to collect and learn more things from just everywhere. Like I just love absorbing everything that I can. So, and that's going to be a lifetime thing. But I don't think there was an initial spark. I just always had that thirst for more knowledge, more and more and more. Yeah.
And you're right, it does compound, acquiring knowledge. Anyone who's seen Warren Buffett's portfolio, it's like flat lines for decades, and then it's like whoop. And that's the compounding. I think he calls it the 8th wonder of the world.
Compound interest.
Funny you mentioned that, now that you mention that, I remember your story development work, those documents, just the tech that you were starting to use back then in all sorts of things. I was like, whoa, just ahead of a lot of the guys we're talking to. And then I know you don't use it a lot, and it was a bit of a test and hobby, but like the 3D printing, and you've 3D printed some of the houses you designed.
Yeah. That's
awesome. And I always thought, man, if I ever, one day when we get a house designed, whether whoever's designing it, either if they can do it or come to you and go, hey, could you print this? It'd be cool to get a 3D printed version of a house.
That was a spark I had a few years ago now, but I thought it was a great idea to start 3D printing house models. So went down that little rabbit warren for a while.
I like that. Okay, awesome. And then what has been some really key things that if we just look at this last year, because that you keep just leveling up as a person, as a business. Just if we could look at the last year, what have been some great things that you have, knowledge you've acquired, processes you've implemented, software you've implemented?
It's a great question. I think I'd probably say over the past 12 months, I really took the time to drill down on the financials of the company, probably maybe coming off the back of COVID as well. I really wanted to get super clear on exactly where we stood at any day of the week. I didn't want to be that person walking into the accountant going,
where am I at?
Where am I at?
That's epic.
So I think some of these things have come through frustration, as in frustration of not having that knowledge. So where do I find it?
Yep.
And going and learning it. As far as softwares go, like I'd say a big one would be where all the 3D renderings are going these days.
Yep.
That's just becoming bigger and bigger, and just, you know, you see pictures now compared to the photorealistic
So
at the start.
like
it's almost
days.
like the same building. Yeah. You wouldn't even know. And just standardizing everything in our business in terms of the, you know, standard operating procedures we've got. Tracking all of our data across platforms like Builder Trends so that we can then, you know, we know that the guys have spent 1,000 hours on X cladding so that we can then recycle that information into future builds and use that data. Because building companies have so much data, but most of it goes to waste.
They don't even know how to use it.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're able to recycle that data and keep a database that's live and up to date, there's so much data in a building company that we can use in future projects for quoting,
What's
for
an example
estimating.
of that?
So as an example, every day on site, my guys log how many hours they did, and they also allocate what tasks they performed for those 8 hours. So it might be fix out, it might be structural concrete, it might be roofing. Right. So across the length of a 12-month job, I can then look back and see exactly how many hours were performed on task XYZ, and I can compare that to what we estimated 12 months prior to that.
Yeah.
So then I can see if we're going over or under budget on labour or materials, and I can use that information moving forward. It's the old adage, what's measured can be improved. If you're not measuring that, you have no idea, and you really, you know, like a boat without a rudder.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. If you don't measure it, if you can't track it, if you're not tracking it, you can't measure it.
Yes.
Then you can't make more informed decisions. Who would be, was it a two-part question? Great businesses that you've partnered with, other than ourselves. No joking. But great other guys out there who want to grow some great businesses or teams to partner with.
Yep.
And great mentors that you listen to, follow, absorb their knowledge and stuff like that.
I think there's so many great podcasts out there now for building specifically, like Level Up or something like that.
Yep.
Just consuming that and listening to that is
Level Up's Dwayne Pearce.
Yeah, Dwayne Pearce can be a real mindset switch. Like I've listened to a lot of that.
And he's big on mindset.
Yeah, it's massive, definitely, having the right mindset. And there's a lot of great business coaches out there too. I think the trick is you just have to find the one that meshes with you, because there's heaps out there. It's just a matter of maybe trying a few and then seeing which one gels with you, because everyone's a bit different and every coach offers something slightly different. Yeah.
Are there teams that helped you set up the business that you have, or have you worked with other people, or what does that look like?
No, I've definitely worked with a few consultants along the way, like accounting consultants and stuff like that would set up all of the accounting side of the business. And because these days the average builder is running a pretty beefy tech stack. Like I know that, you know, the software, we're probably running like, you know, 4 or 5, maybe even 6 different softwares to support our business, and they've all got to talk to each other. And there's got to be a systemized way of getting that data in each week, like your invoicing or whatever it may be. And there's definitely optimum ways to do that. And I've partnered with a lot of great consultants, one-off consultants maybe, or maybe even shorter term or longer term partners to set these up and make sure that I'm operating under best practice, I guess you'd say. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot of value in that too, I think.
It's been epic to see. I know, like, some of the guys you've been working with, you know, we would cross paths with them, and, you know, we're comparing notes with, you know, ideal clients and stuff like that. And it's like, we mention you, they mention you, and it's like, yeah, wow, that's awesome. And so to see you just start plugging all these things in, I'm not surprised at all where things have come for you and gone and going, which is epic. If you were to put, I guess, some numbers around the growth you've had, what sort of average projects you're working on, say 3-4 years ago versus today?
Yeah. So initially, all of our projects probably would have been, you know, sub $1 million, and then these days they'd be minimum 1.5 and up, ideally maybe 2 plus. That's kind of our target market currently.
And the team's growing as well?
Yeah, the team's definitely growing. So I think there's maybe 9 or 10 of us at the moment. So we've got an admin girl as well. So
and you're not on the tools at all?
No.
And you're just there. Where do you feel you provide most value to your business?
I would say currently roughly half of my time is spent, you know, working on the business, actively improving it, looking for new systems, procedures, or just optimizing the ones we currently have. And then the other 50% is working with new clients, working obviously with my guys internally on site, and just overviewing things. Yeah.
One area that I've mentioned it a few times in this podcast so far that I want to dive more into is that shift you've gone from doing, well, you've always sort of been doing a bit of design, but to now being quite focused on design construct.
Yep.
What have you found to be really helpful with that transition for other guys out there that I know you have the in-house ability, but yeah, some great things you've seen help with that transition.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit easier for me because initially I was just bootstrapping it and doing it all myself. But then at a later date, we did bring on a designer in-house. So I can sort of take that off my plate now and not, have as much to do with that. It's a tricky one because there's going to be a tipping point for any builder that's looking to do that, where maybe they're working with a third party and then eventually they've got enough work in the door where it's like a part-time position maybe for a designer, and maybe they can fill out the rest with some other things to take up the time. It's definitely a tricky balance on when to do that. But as far as the balance goes, as far as the benefits go, for me, being able to bring that in-house for the client is just a much better journey for the client, because I can't tell you how many times previously I've had a client come to me who might have spent 12 months with a designer, maybe $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. They've got their house approved, they've got the engineering, they've got every single documentation, and they come to me and say, oh, we're looking to spend $1 million on this house. And I come back and it's 1.5 or maybe more. And I feel like the giant stamping in going fee, fi, fo, fum, and I've ruined your entire dream. Just because I haven't had that consultation initially in the concept stage, or even had that. It should really be a team effort from the builder and the designer. Like the client should be selecting a builder that they think is going to be a great team player for them, because really you're marrying that builder and the designer for the duration that you're going to be in that house. Yeah. So rather than looking around for a rock bottom builder, I think you should be choosing a builder that is, aligning with your principles, you get along with really well, similar to getting married. Yep. And build the great team from the get-go, and then it'll be a dream journey because you can work through those prices and design iterations simultaneously with all of those together, which is what we're able to do internally. Yeah.
Maybe unpack for some of the guys that might be listening to this, let's say for your prospective clients who might be listening to this, dive into a bit more detail as to why it's so important to either come to the builder first, or if they go to an architect, is get the builder on board with the whole program as early as possible.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it seems so simple, but if you can combine both an architect and a builder from day one, it should resolve nearly every problem a homeowner has, because you won't get that design creep where inevitably, I've done the same thing. You just start adding more and more things to the design, and you think, oh, that'll just cost us a little bit more, and you add another ensuite here or a butler's pantry there or whatever it may be, and then 6 months later, the house has grown by 100 square meters and it's, 50% more. So you really need that. Everyone does it. Like every client does that. But you really need that education throughout the design process for a builder to come in and say, look, you can have all these things. That's great. That's not a problem, but it's going to cost you X amount. Are you happy with that? Is that something you're comfortable spending that amount of money on? And then it's up to the client to decide if that is something they want to go ahead with or not. And so it should really be, a very great three-way relationship between the architect, designer, the builder, and the homeowner, and collectively they need to be bouncing these ideas back and forth all the time, updating pricing all the time as the design is updated, to ensure that by the time you get to construction, the build cost is exactly in line with what you're willing to spend, and you're also getting a great outcome that you're happy with.
I guess when you say it like that, it does make pretty plain sense.
Yeah.
What did you ever have the fear of shifting towards this design constructor, maybe the fear of missing out on opportunities because designers will stop sending you work? Or
a little bit, but it hasn't really been an issue.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what's been the reality of that.
Yeah, I think it's an unfounded issue or thought that I had. I'd say currently 50% of our work is in-house design and 50% is for designers and architects, and we're able to support their documentation with our own. So it's in many ways it's a benefit for them as well. Like when I say to an architect I was speaking to recently that I'm going to take his design and we're going to build it in a complete working structural model. So we're essentially going to build that house in a 3D CAD program before we build it on site. That's where every stud's going, where every nog's going, every structural steel connection, plumbing penetrations, like the whole thing. And that's what we're going to use to estimate and quote your project too. So once, and he was over the moon to hear that was the modern approach that we were taking. So the feedback that I've gotten has been really great.
Wow. And that's something you build in-house?
So in that scenario, it's the architect's design. He's completed the design, but then we come through on the back end as we quote it. Regardless of if it's our in-house design or if it's a third-party design, we're still going to build a working structural model on the computer.
Your team's doing that working structural model?
Yes, correct. Yeah. We do that internally, and that's what we base our estimate off. So we do all of our...
That'd be incredibly accurate then.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. We do all of our a bill of quantities. And then not only that, all of our subcontractors get a dedicated layout plan. So they'll get a structural steel shop drawing plan. They'll get plumbing penetration layouts. We'll go to our plumber, concrete slab layouts for set downs. And it's just a dedicated plan just for that sub-trade. So there's not this mix of documentation that may or may not
They need to go in there and highlight their section.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We provide dedicated plans to each sub-trade.
Wow.
Yeah.
What software does that?
So the software we use is called Plus Design Build. It's actually an Australian software.
Okay.
It's quite fairly user-friendly to use, I'd say.
And that is what allows you to build that working model?
Yeah, so it's called a BIM model. So that just stands for Building Information Modeling. So you're not just modeling blank walls or empty spaces. You're actually modeling the structure of the building. You know, you're drawing a wall and it's adding in all the stud work and the plasterboard and the skirting boards and the cornice and everything like that as you're drawing the wall.
And then that transfers into your builder trend?
Yeah, it does. So we've got pricing associated to all of those components. So as we're drawing this wall, it's automatically pricing it as well. So if we shrink it or increase it, it's updating the pricing. And then when it comes to actually running the job, we then push all that data over into Builder Trend, and we can track the progress of that job. You know, we've allowed 100 linear meters of framing timber. Have we used that in reality? Are we under? Are we over? And then we can recycle that information and use it in future projects that we're designing. You know, if we're under, maybe we'll bump it up a little bit on the next one.
Might be a silly question, and this comes from someone who's naive, who's never done any carpentry time ever.
Yep.
When you do that mathematics, what happens if someone goes and starts cutting woods and they just keep cutting the ends off, and you end up with like, oh, oops, we were cutting the wrong end, building these studs, and now we've got all these, you know, pieces that are all 200, 300 long. Or is that comes down to good carpentry? Or?
A combination of the two. So the software will size in the correct member. So if you're drawing a 2.4 meter high wall, it will size in 4.8 meter lengths, and then you're going to cut 2 out of each one.
Right. Okay.
But we do allow a degree of wastage too. Okay. Like any site, you are going to have a bit of wastage.
Yeah. Jumping back into your sort of the client journey that you take your clients on.
Yep.
One thing that I know our team loved was the case study we shot a little while back, where that couple just totally trusted you, and they were quite a while away and just trusted you on the coast to build or renovate their home.
Yep.
What was that like for that? Because they were a bit older.
Yep.
And again, going back to the original conversation we had, wanting the older generation to trust you. What was that project like to come to fruition and see the outcome and that?
Yeah, that was an interesting one, because the situation there was we were, COVID had just emerged, and we were looking to start this project, you know, a month in advance. And it just so turned out that the day that client packed up all their things and moved back to Sydney, they were anticipating coming down every couple of weeks to sort of, you know, look over the project and see how progress was going on site. And 2 days after they moved back to Sydney, that was when the Sydney lockdowns started.
Wow.
So that project went for about 9 months, and it was almost like tip to tail. It was like the day the lockdown started, they moved to Sydney and we started the job, and then the day the lockdowns finished was the day that we finished the job. It was like almost exactly like that.
Wow.
So that just pushed on me the need to constantly communicate with clients. I'd be in there doing, you know, video walkarounds and Zooms and any manner of thing to communicate and get across to them where the project was up to, how it was progressing, to make sure that they were comfortable with that.
Yep.
Because not being able to come down and see it in person for 9 months and just walk into a finished home is pretty confronting for some clients.
I bet.
So I think that process has probably instilled in me the power of that. So again, harking back to, you know, the programs we use, in this case, Builder Trend has got the facility to do a daily log.
Yeah.
So frequently now we're updating that with daily logs of me just walking through, filming the site, talking to the client on camera, giving them daily updates, telling them exactly where we're up to. And I think that has just been amazing for building a great relationship with the client throughout the entire process. Yeah. They just know that they can trust us almost no matter what, because we've shown them everything. Yeah. And they can really see that our, you know, how invested we are in their project as well. So
yeah, that's cool, because that's you're often getting people from Canberra or quite a while away that come to you, you know, work with you to have designs, build, and then often not even there. Yeah,
exactly. So most of our clientele are people that are looking to retire, and they're making a sea change from either Sydney or Canberra. So they've probably lived in Sydney or Canberra their entire life, and they've sold up there, and they've bought something on the coast. And most of the time they're still living in Sydney or Canberra until the house is finished. So communication is a massive thing for us, because we have no choice really. They might come down once a month. They're probably still actively working, and they, you know, usually can't just duck down the coast for 4 hours there and then 4 hours back and, for a day. So, yeah, we've really had to make sure that our communication is amazing for the clients, to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah. I know it was a huge privilege to help tell that story, those clients and the journey that they had with you. What is some of the common feedback that you're hearing from your clients taking on this journey, and especially the growth you've been on, being able to offer more now?
Yeah.
What are you sort of hearing often from your clients?
I think oftentimes how smooth it is, because really we're just one touch point. They don't have to deal with anyone else.
Yeah.
We'll organise every single thing. So that's been amazing for clients, and that's often the feedback I get from them. And just generally how great our team is and our subcontractors. We use amazing subcontractors. So, yeah, the feedback is generally amazing. Yeah.
Epic. Awesome, man. And what, for you, when you look at the future, what excites Daniel Perrem most about what's coming up? Short term, long term?
Yep. I'm just super passionate about building amazing homes. So I just want to keep building, more and more amazing homes and really push the limits of what can be built. And yeah, it's just what I love doing. So I'm so lucky to be able to build those homes for people.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Epic. Awesome, man. Well, I'm excited to see, as that goes on and what you build. I'm going to be keeping a close eye and seeing what you produce. And man, thanks so much that we could be a part of. The past 3 years has been amazing.
Yeah.
And you're now stepping off and giving someone local an awesome opportunity to come help you with your marketing.
Yep.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, epic to see where things go and watch you keep growing.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing. Thanks, guys. I can truly say you were the pivotal moment in building my company. Yeah.
Well, very kind, Daniel, and you've put in a lot of hard work. So it's not ever a silver bullet or a one trick.
No,
so
definitely not.
Thank you.
Thank you.